I walked out of my own wedding 20 minutes before I was supposed to say, I do. Because the man I love chose to defend a lie designed to destroy me, rather than stand by my side. My name is Clara, and I am 29 years old. My ex-fiancé, Mark, is 30, and we had been a couple for 8 years, building a life I thought was unshakable until the very moment it imploded. Mark has a friend, Sophia, whom he has known since they were both in kindergarten. She was a constant, almost spectral presence in our relationship, a third wheel who insisted on sitting in the front seat. Mark always dismissed my unease with a wave of his hand and the familiar, infuriating refrain. That's just how Sophia is, Clara. Don't take it personally. Our relationship was, in all other aspects, a happy one. We shared dreams, built successful careers, and spent 18 months meticulously planning our dream wedding in a beautiful vineyard in Napa Valley. But Sophia was the persistent crack in the foundation. The one I kept being told was just a hairline fracture, nothing to worry about. The red flags were there, fluttering in the wind for years. If only I had allowed myself to see them for what they were. About 3 years into our relationship, I was offered a major promotion that required us to relocate from San Diego to Seattle. It was a tremendous opportunity for me, and Mark had initially been supportive. The week we were supposed to sign the lease on a new apartment, Sophia's father passed away after a long illness. It was, understandably, a devastating time for her. Mark, out of compassion, spent nearly every evening with her, helping with arrangements and providing comfort. But the support didn't end after the funeral. He began to suggest we postpone the move for a few months so he could be there for Sophia while she adjusted. A few months turned into a year. My promotion was offered to someone else. When I expressed my profound disappointment, Mark was genuinely baffled. How can you be so selfish? Her dad just died. My career can wait, he said. As if my ambition was a minor inconvenience compared to Sophia's perpetual grief. On another occasion, for my 27th birthday, Mark had planned a romantic weekend getaway to a cozy cabin in Big Sur. As we were unpacking our bags, a car pulled up. It was Sophia. She bounded out, claiming she had surprised Mark because she'd heard the area was beautiful and decided to treat herself to a solo trip. What an amazing coincidence, she'd exclaimed, hugging Mark tightly. Our intimate weekend for two became a trio, with Sophia suggesting hikes and dinners, effectively hijacking my birthday celebration. Mark was beaming, thrilled that his two favorite people were getting along so well. When I tried to talk to him about it later, he accused me of being jealous and not wanting his best friend to be happy. The wedding planning was where Sophia's interference escalated from subtle nuisance to overt campaign. She had an opinion on everything. She hated the color scheme I had chosen, ivory and dusty blue, saying it was washed out, and pushed for something brighter and more vibrant, like the fuchsia she loved. She critiqued my choice of a sleek, modern wedding dress, sending Mark pictures of more romantic, bohemian-style gowns she thought would be more suitable. The most egregious violation came when she accompanied Mark to choose his wedding band. I had assumed this was a moment he would share with his father or his brother. Instead, he went with Sophia, and she convinced him to buy a band that was drastically different from what we had looked at together. A thick, brushed tungsten ring that didn't match the delicate platinum of my engagement ring at all. When I saw it, my heart sank. It was a physical symbol of her influence, something I would have to look at on his hand for the rest of my life. Mark's response was, "She has a great eye for design, Clara. Don't you like it? It's just a ring." The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear. The vineyard was stunning, draped in morning light, the rows of grapes stretching towards distant hills. I was in the main villa's bridal suite with my mother and my two best friends, Lena and Chloe. A sense of serene happiness had settled over me. All the planning, all the stress, had led to this perfect moment. Then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. It contained a series of screenshots of a text conversation, supposedly between me and a male colleague named David. The messages were graphic. In them, I was detailing a passionate affair, mocking Mark's naivety, and confessing that I was only marrying him for financial security, and that I was deeply in love with David. The words were vile, a complete and utter fabrication. My blood ran cold. A second later, Lena's phone chirped. Her face paled as she read a message from her own sister, who was a guest. What is going on? Someone named Sophia just sent a mass email to half the guest list with screenshots of Clara confessing to an affair. Is the wedding off? The room began to spin. It was Sophia. She hadn't just sent it to a few people. She had orchestrated a mass email, a targeted missile aimed at my reputation, my integrity, and my future, launched minutes before I was to walk down the aisle. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Lena was already on her feet, her eyes blazing. We need to find Mark. Now, she said, her voice tight with fury. I felt a strange, cold calm descend over me. No, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I'll handle this. I walked out of the suite, my silk robe swirling around my ankles, and found my older brother, Alex, in the hallway. Get Mark. Bring him to the library. Now. No one else. The look on my face must have told him everything. He nodded grimly and strode off. The library was a quiet, wood-paneled room, smelling of old books and polish. I stood in the center, my phone clutched in my hand, waiting. Mark entered a moment later, looking annoyed and flustered. Clara, what's this about? The guests are starting to be seated. This is a bad time for a chat. I wordlessly handed him my phone. The damning screenshots displayed on the screen. I watched his face as he scanned them. He blinked, then a slow, nervous smile spread across his lips. He actually chuckled. Oh, for God's sake. This is insane. You know Sophia. She has a wicked, warped sense of humor. It's a prank, Clara. A stupid, tasteless prank. I stared at him, my breath catching in my throat. A prank. I repeated, my voice a whisper. She just told our entire family and friend group that I'm a cheating gold digger, and you think it's a prank? He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up. Look, honey, I know it's in poor taste. It's sophomoric. But it's just Sophia being dramatic. She wouldn't actually mean any of this. She loves us. She's happy for us. He stepped forward, trying to take my hand. I pulled it back. Let's just get through the ceremony. We can laugh about this later. Don't let her ruin our big day. Please. In that moment, something inside me shattered and then instantly reformed, harder and clearer than ever before. His priority wasn't the monstrous lie that had been spread about me. It wasn't my humiliation, my shock, my devastation. His priority was avoiding a scene. His priority was getting me down the aisle so things would look perfect from the outside, even if the inside was rotting because of his toxic friendship. He was asking me to smile, to say my vows, to pledge my life to him, while half the people watching believed I was a traitorous liar, and while he stood beside me, protecting the person who had done it. The calmness in my voice surprised even me. If you truly believe that this is something we can just get through, and that Sophia's actions are just a joke to be laughed about later, then I cannot marry you. I looked him directly in the eyes. You have just shown me, in the clearest possible way, that you will never put me first. You will always choose her, or the illusion of peace with her, over me. This isn't about her anymore, Mark. This is about you. His face crumpled. Clara, don't be ridiculous. We're about to get married. You're overreacting. He reached for me again, but I was already turning away. I walked out of the library, past my confused and worried family who had gathered in the hall. I met Alex's eyes. I'm leaving. Take me home. I didn't run. I walked with a purpose I didn't know I possessed, through the elegant corridors of the villa, out a side door, and into the bright, mocking sunlight. I got into Alex's car, and we drove away from the vineyard, away from my wedding, away from the life I had thought was mine. The next few hours were a blur of silence and shock. My phone exploded with calls and texts, Mark, his parents, my parents, friends. I didn't answer. I had Alex drive me to a hotel in the city, a place where no one would find me. I checked in, collapsed on the bed, and finally let the tears come. They weren't tears of sadness for the wedding, but tears of sheer, unadulterated rage and betrayal. The voicemails piled up. Mark's ranged from bewildered, "Where are you? What is happening?" to angry, "How could you do this to me? To us?" to desperate, "Please, Clara, just call me back. We can fix this." According to texts from Lena, chaos had erupted at the venue. Mark was reportedly having a meltdown, alternating between trying to find me and trying to placate the guests. Sophia, she said, was already weaving a new narrative, telling anyone who would listen that I had clearly gotten cold feet, and was using her silly joke as a convenient excuse to run, that I was unstable and looking for a way out. I was physically safe, but emotionally, I felt like I had been hollowed out. I called my parents, assuring them I was okay but couldn't talk, and then I turned my phone off for the next 12 hours. The silence was a blessing. The support and validation I received from my original post were a lifeline in those first, dark days. Thank you. Many of you asked for more context, and the passage of time has given me a clearer perspective to provide it. To clarify the scale of Sophia's attack, it wasn't a simple group text. She had compiled a massive email list from the wedding website's guest list and sent the fabricated screenshots as a formal email with the subject line, "A concern for Mark." She then followed up with individual texts to key people, like our grandparents and close childhood friends, ensuring the poison spread as widely and quickly as possible. This was a premeditated, strategic strike. Regarding Mark's reaction in the library, it was even worse upon reflection. He didn't just call it a joke. He minimized my feelings, accused me of overreacting, and his primary directive was to get through the ceremony. There was not a single ounce of fury on my behalf, not a flicker of protectiveness. His instinct was to placate and proceed, to smooth things over so his perfect day could go on as planned, even if the bride was broken. Why didn't I confront Sophia? Because in that pivotal moment, she was irrelevant. She was merely the weapon. Mark was the one who was supposed to be my shield. His reaction was the ultimate test, and he failed spectacularly. Confronting her would have been a distraction from the core truth. My partner of 8 years did not have my back. The day after the non-wedding, I turned my phone back onto a fresh tsunami of notifications. After a brief, tearful call with my parents, my father and Alex came to the hotel to pick me up. I would be staying with them. Before leaving, I blocked Sophia on every platform imaginable. I have not spoken to Mark. My family's support has been my anchor. When I arrived home, I sat everyone down and told them the whole unvarnished story, not just the events of the wedding day, but the years of subtle undermining, the canceled move to Seattle, the hijacked birthday, the interference in the wedding plans. My father, a normally stoic man, was incandescent with rage, not at Sophia, but at Mark. His only thought should have been to defend you, he growled. To denounce that lie and protect you. Anything less is a betrayal. My mother, through her own tears, confirmed my suspicions. I always had a bad feeling about that girl, Clara, she admitted. There was a possessiveness there I didn't like. I saw the way she looked at Mark, not like a friend, but like something she owned. I'm so sorry I didn't say anything sooner. Mark's mother, Eleanor, left several shrill voicemails on my phone, which I later listened to with a sense of surreal detachment. She raged about the humiliation, the wasted money, the spectacle I had created. She demanded I stop this childish nonsense and act like an adult by reconciling with her son. When she started calling the house landline, my mother answered. I heard her side of the conversation. Eleanor, your son stood by while his friend publicly slandered my daughter. Do not call this house again to blame Clara for the consequences of his actions. She then hung up, her hand trembling. Later that evening, against my better judgment, I answered a call from Mark. I put him on speakerphone with my father as a witness. He was sobbing, almost incoherent. Clara, baby, please. This is all a huge mistake. Sophia feels awful. She never meant for you to take it this way. It was a joke that went too far. You have to believe me. I listened to his pleas, his justifications, his continued defense of her intentions. When he paused for breath, I spoke, my voice cold and flat. Mark, you are still not hearing me. This is not about Sophia's intentions. This is about your actions. You failed me. Completely and utterly. There is nothing left to say. I hung up while he was still sputtering. He called back 10 more times. I didn't answer. The fallout among our social circle has been divisive. Some friends have been wonderfully supportive, sending flowers and messages of solidarity. Others have been distant, clearly having bought the narrative that I am the hysterical bride who destroyed an 8-year relationship over a misunderstanding. Sophia, I'm told, has been playing the victim masterfully on social media, posting cryptic quotes about betrayal and the pain of being misunderstood by people you love. The financial reality is grim. The wedding costs close to $55,000. Our families had contributed significantly, and Mark and I had invested a large portion of our own savings. Per the contracts, almost everything is non-refundable. My parents, to my immense guilt, have insisted on absorbing their entire financial loss and are helping me cover my personal contributions. I have decided I will not seek a single penny from Mark or his family. The money is gone. My peace of mind is worth more. On the advice of many, including my wonderfully pragmatic sister-in-law, I have started looking for a therapist. The first consultation is next week. I know the road to healing from this level of betrayal is a long one, but I am taking the first step. The initial, acute shock has subsided, leaving behind a dull, persistent ache. Life has moved into a new, quieter phase, but the echoes of what happened are still ever present. The most significant development is that I have moved out of my parents' house. Their support was everything, but living in my childhood bedroom, in a house Mark knew how to find, became stifling. My best friend Lena offered me her spare room, and I gratefully accepted. The change of scenery has been therapeutic. It feels like the beginning of building a new life, one that is entirely my own. My therapist, Dr. Evans, has been instrumental in helping me unpack not just the trauma of the wedding day, but the systemic erosion of my self-worth throughout my relationship with Mark. We've been delving into the smaller, insidious incidents that I had brushed aside. For instance, I discovered that Mark had been sharing the intimate, private details of our couple's counseling sessions with Sophia. He saw no issue with it, telling me, "She gives me good advice on how to handle you." The word handle made my skin crawl. Dr. Evans helped me see that this was a profound violation of trust and a form of emotional triangulation. We also discussed the vacations. It wasn't just my birthday in Big Sur. On a trip to Paris for our 5th anniversary, Sophia coincidentally happened to be there for a work conference. She spent 3 of our 7 days with us. Mark had secretly told her our itinerary. My anger, which I had expressed then, was again framed as me being insecure and not wanting Mark to have a life outside of our relationship. Understanding these patterns has been both painful and liberating. It confirms that my decision to leave wasn't a rash reaction to a single event, but the inevitable conclusion to an 8-year-long process of being systematically deprioritized. Mark's attempts at contact persisted relentlessly. He shifted from calls to long, rambling emails. They were a confusing mix of self-pity, half-hearted apologies, and angry blame directed at Sophia. "She ruined everything," he wrote in one. "I can't believe I let her come between us." Noticeably absent was any real accountability for his own role. He still saw himself as a victim of Sophia's manipulation, rather than an active participant in my betrayal. About a month ago, he somehow got Lena's address and showed up at her apartment. I was out grocery shopping, thankfully, but Lena was home. She didn't let him in. She stood in the doorway and told him, in no uncertain terms, that if he ever came back, she would call the police. She said he looked broken, but her sympathy for him had long since evaporated. "He made his bed," she told me later. "He doesn't get to cry about having to lie in it." The social fallout has largely stabilized. My brother, Alex, took it upon himself to become my unofficial PR manager. He calmly and factually explained the situation, complete with the forwarded email from Sophia, to several mutual friends and extended family members who had heard distorted versions. This cleared the air with many people, who reached out to apologize. My relationship with some of Mark's friends is irrevocably broken, but I've found that I don't mind. Their loyalty was always to him, not to the truth. I sold my wedding dress. I took it to a consignment shop, and when the woman asked why such a beautiful, unworn dress was being sold, I simply said, "The wedding was canceled." She didn't press further. The small amount of money I got for it felt symbolic, a closing of a chapter. The engagement ring is in my safety deposit box. I am preparing to have my lawyer send it to Mark's lawyer. I want no direct contact. This will be my final update on this chapter of my life. A sense of closure, while not complete, is finally within reach. The most dramatic event occurred about 3 weeks ago. Mark, in what I can only assume was a final, desperate gambit, managed to get my new work email address and sent me a long message. The tone was different from all his previous communications. It was filled with what sounded like genuine, hard-won insight. He claimed he had started therapy himself. He admitted that he had been in a fog for years, unable to see Sophia's manipulation for what it was, and more importantly, his own cowardice in never setting boundaries with her. He claimed he had finally cut her out of his life completely. As proof, he attached a screenshot of a text exchange where he told her their friendship was over, that her actions were malicious and unforgivable, and that he never wanted to see or speak to her again. He pleaded for one meeting, one chance to show me the man he had become, to see if there was a glimmer of a future for us. I sat with that email for 2 full days. I discussed it at length with Dr. Evans and with Lena. A part of me, the part that had loved him for 8 years, wanted to believe him. It wanted this to be the happy ending where he finally got it, and we could somehow fix the unfixable. But the larger, stronger part of me, the part that had walked out of that vineyard, knew the truth. Even if his transformation was real, it was too late. The trust between us wasn't just broken, it had been pulverized. The image of him laughing nervously, telling me not to make a scene, was burned permanently onto my soul. His realization, however sincere, did not undo the years of dismissal, the public humiliation, or the fundamental fact that when I needed him most, he was not there. I crafted my response carefully. I did not acknowledge his claims about Sophia or his personal growth. I simply wrote, "Mark, I have received your email. I am glad you are seeking help for yourself. However, my decision is final. Our relationship is over. I do not wish to meet with you, now or in the future. Any further communication will be considered harassment and will be handled accordingly through appropriate channels. I wish you well in your life, but that life will not include me. Please respect my request for no contact." I sent the email and felt a weight lift that I didn't even know I was still carrying. It was done. A week later, I had my lawyer send the engagement ring to his parents' house via registered mail. There was no note. It was a transaction, the final severing of a material tie. I have since heard through the grapevine, which is inevitably still active, that Mark has taken a temporary assignment abroad. I think the distance will be good for both of us. Sophia, from what little I've heard, has been completely ostracized from our former core social group, as the full truth of her actions has become widely known. Her punishment is to live in the world she created, a world without Mark in it, after all. As for me, I am still living with Lena, though I have started casually browsing apartment listings. My therapy continues to be challenging and profoundly helpful. I am rediscovering old hobbies I had let fall by the wayside, and have started painting again. The colors are brighter than I remember. The pain is still there, some days more than others, but it is no longer the center of my universe. It is a scar, not an open wound. I walked away from my wedding, but in doing so, I walked towards myself. And for the first time in a very long time, the future feels like my own.